This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Wednesday, August 30th, 2023. I'm Alex Brown. Muncie-based First Merchants Corporation said today it will invest about $18 million to acquire the former Duke Realty building at Keystone at the Crossing in Indianapolis. CEO Mark Hardwick said the bank will relocate about 175 existing jobs to the new location, with 100 new jobs to be added over the next 5 years.
You think about all of the things that we're doing that are focused on creating an inclusive work environment where we have great teamwork, great collaboration, and just the space to effectively work together. It was the primary motivation. You know, I think given how the world has changed with the amount of remote work, we also wanted to have a space that kind of encouraged people to come into the office where they were excited about the building, excited about their workspace, and the ability to work closely with their colleagues. So I'm really enthusiastic that we were able to find such an amazing kind of modern state-of-the-art building.
The new location is set to open next spring. First Merchants will maintain its corporate headquarters in Muncie. Franciscan Health Indianapolis is now certified as a Level 3 trauma center, the health system said Tuesday. The American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma verified the achievement after the hospital met the criteria for trauma care capability and institutional performance. A top executive at Columbus-based Cummins is leaving the company. Cummins officials announced Tuesday that Vice President Tracy Embry, who has been with the company for 23 years and served as president of the company's distribution business since 2019, will leave for an undisclosed external opportunity. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
For 25 years, we've had the honor of telling the story of Indiana business. More than 1,300 shows, 8,000 interviews. We've traveled from Valparaiso to Versailles, Fort Wayne to Fort Branch, and everywhere in between. And we are just getting started. Our team is passionate about Indiana business because your story is worth telling. Join us every week as we travel the state to bring you Indiana's story. Inside Indiana Business, 25 years and counting.
Texas-based futurist Crystal Williams says the oncoming wave of automation and artificial intelligence will certainly impact the workforce, but perhaps not in the way many people think. Speaking with Gary Dick at the Rally Conference in Indianapolis, where she gave a keynote speech, the Gary native talked about fears of an onslaught of automation.
I don't think there's a reason to be afraid, but I think there's a reason to be aware. So when we think about automation, we're still at its infancy, and we have seen people automated out of jobs. But the question is, we have to start asking ourselves, what is it that we can do that robots can't do? The same thing with generative AI. A lot of times people are very scared. They're seeing it create images and text like humans would. And I tell them, I don't think that AI will replace humans. I think humans with AI will replace humans without AI.
So there's opportunity. You see opportunity as you look at artificial intelligence.
There's a great deal of opportunity, and I think it also has the ability to be an equalizer. When we talk about equal opportunities for people of all different backgrounds, socioeconomic areas, think about what the computer did in allowing people through, whether they actually have the desktop or mobile, to be able to communicate and build businesses. Think what social media did. There's small businesses now that would have never existed without having that type of referral or marketing engine that was so affordable, because they wouldn't have been able to afford traditional means.
Williams said she believes some form of regulation of AI will be in the future because, in her words, it has to be. Enrollment in the state's 21st Century Scholars Program has doubled thanks to a new law passed by the Indiana General Assembly this year. The Indiana Commission for Higher Education said today more than 40,000 students have been automatically enrolled in the program's 2027 cohort, up from 20,000 in the previous cohort. During this year's legislative session, State Representative Earl Harris Jr. of East Chicago authored a bill that would automatically enroll all financially eligible students in the program. The commission said an estimated 20,000 additional students will be enrolled in the program for each 8th grade class going forward. Shanine Haley was practically jumping out of her seat as urban planners described their vision earlier this month for her neighborhood in Elkhart's Benham area. As officials move to revitalize Elkhart's downtown, demand for housing just blocks south of the city center is growing. With the help of Notre Dame's School of Architecture, city officials are making both short and long-term plans to increase housing. Notre Dame's Marianne Cusado.
When the downtown gets reinvested, which it will, the pressure, even though the railroad is there, the pressure to come south and to develop this area will happen.
However, city officials and the Notre Dame team agree that the project will take time, with the city needing to revise zoning ordinances that would allow for infill housing units on vacant lots. If done correctly, the Benham area could support as many as 850 new residential units. Gary, gun shops are now required to turn their sales records over to the police department if they go out of business. Lakeshore Public Radio's Michael Gallenberger reports.
The city council approved the requirement in an ordinance last week. City Attorney Rodney Pohl says the measures allowed under federal gun laws, and it's another tool in Gary's 24-year legal battle against gun manufacturers, distributors, and retailers.
There are certain retailers in our area that are closing up shop, and we wanted to ensure that before they do so, that this law goes into effect for us to be able to get those records through the federal legislation as well as through the discovery process.
Pohl told council members that the lawsuit's been dismissed and revived a number of times over the years. Some gun shops are not currently named in the litigation, and the ordinance gives the city another way of getting their records. One retailer whose records the city's been seeking, Westforth Sports, announced plans to close earlier this summer. For Lakeshore News, I'm Michael Gallenberger.
Former Major League Baseball player Drew Storen is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, and entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.